It's the Growing for Market podcast.
Our homestead in Brownsburg has peonies that I don't know how they got there or who brought them over, but they've been blooming for at least 100 years and they've never been touched. So, I mean, as long as you give them distance apart in a row, I plant mine 2 feet apart. I dig mine up every 3 years though, but 2 feet apart in a row, you could leave them for, an extended period of time. I would recommend if it stops blooming to dig it up and see what's happening, but only if you see a problem. Never, and if you want to divide it, of course, go ahead and do that because then you can have more. But no, you don't have to dig them up or they don't get root bound.
Hello and welcome to the Growing for Market podcast, where we talk about growing, marketing, and the business of growing flowers and vegetables for local markets. I'm Andrew Mefford, your host and the editor of Growing for Market magazine, proudly celebrating 35 years in 2026 as the magazine by and for vegetable and flower market farmers. If you're enjoying the podcast, just wait till you see the magazine. Go to growingformarket.com for more. Also, if you could give us a follow and a rating, it really helps other like-minded people find the podcast. And now, let's take a minute to hear from our sponsors. It's with their generous support that we can bring you the podcast for free.
Hey, it's Lindsay from Grown By. There are a lot of farm sales platforms out there, but there's only one that's cooperatively owned by farmers. And that's Grown By, your all-in-one solution to simplify farm sales. I'm proud and excited to share 2 new features now available on top of the tools you already know and love. Number 1, our customizable CSA box builder. It allows your customers to simply say what they'd like in their share, and Grown By matches their preferences with your weekly harvest. Number 2, our new wholesale-only marketplace. Developed with the Culinary Institute of America, it makes your life easier with a dedicated shop for your wholesale customers. No more texting those chefs, combining retail and wholesale inventories and records, and, drumroll, automatic payments on due dates. No more chasing down late payments. These new features sit alongside our popular online sales and traditional subscription CSA tools, making it easier than ever to manage your farm's business. As you start to get ready for next season, we'd love to hear from you and see if our cooperative can be a partner in growing your farm. Visit us at grownby.com. That's GROWNBY.com.
If you grow for market, you know performance is everything. That's why so many farmers are turning to Burpee's Farmers Market. Dedicated to professional growers, Burpee is now offering non-GMO seeds in larger quantities, bred and selected for standout flavor, strong yields, and the kind of visual appeal your customers crave. All farmers market varieties are trialed at Burpee's Research Farm in Doylestown, Pennsylvania, where expert horticulturalists test for germination rate, vigor, disease resistance, high yield, and consistency, things that make a difference in the field and to your bottom line. The seed assortment includes USDA-certified organic varieties, Burpee-bred classics, heirlooms, and exciting new introductions. Burpee's been doing this for 150 years, and they're still creating new varieties with growers like you in mind. You can check out the full lineup at burpee.com/farmersmarket. That's burpee.com/farmersmarket. Today, we have the pleasure of welcoming Kate-Lynn Clark to the Growing for Market podcast. Kate-Lynn runs En Fleurs, a peony root farm based in Brownsburg-Chatham, Quebec, about an hour north of Montreal. There, she grows nearly 500 varieties of herbaceous peonies for sale as roots for planting, and more recently added woody or tree peonies to the assortment. So, without further ado, welcome to the Growing for Market podcast, Kate-Lynn.
Oh, thank you much for having me.
Yeah. Well, so one thing we have in common is we both went to the same school, Concordia University in Montreal. In fact, I found out about your farm from the Concordia email newsletter, and they had a story about you. And I was like, oh, 500 varieties and moving a whole farm's worth of peonies. There's a story there. And I'm so glad that you agreed to come on and tell us about it.
Yeah, I started growing peonies with my mentor in, I want to say it was 2015. I moved back from New Brunswick. My husband works for the railroad and he was transferred to New Brunswick for a little while. And I didn't have very much employment there. And so when I came back to Montreal, I was desperate for a job. And in my neighborhood, there was this peony farm and she was growing roots for gardeners. And she had this huge collection. I was employed there and I was with her for 4 seasons while I completed my degree at Concordia. And when I finished, she wanted to retire and she said, "Do you want to buy the business?" And I said, "Yes, I do." So I moved the peony collection to the farm in Brownsburg where my parents are.
Yeah. Okay, so that's interesting to me because it's kind of like you bought the farm without the land or something
I
like
did,
that.
yeah.
Okay. So when you moved the roots from the previous farm to your current location, how many roots and cultivars did you end up digging up?
I had to look that up. So it was 768 plants. And in order to pay for this mass amount of plants, I sold from that first group. So I instantly started a business of selling roots. So I was selling cut flowers for market, and it was COVID. It was the first summer of COVID. The world had really pivoted. We had a drought that summer too, and my location in Brownsburg, I don't have irrigation. So I was struggling there. Lindsay Daou, the owner of La Pivoine Daou in Hudson, Quebec, where I bought the farm, said, "Hey, why don't you do this instead?" And it was like an instant pivot because I had to move. I moved the plants over 2 years, but I hadn't prepared to buy this. Like it was just like a Wednesday afternoon. So we made the listings for the plants within 2 weeks. I sold a bunch to pay. I sold over 2 years to pay for the lot. And yeah, we dug up half the first year, divided them, shipped some out, which doing it solo for the first time was a lot of work. Like it was like a huge learning curve. Like I'd been working for her for a while, but like doing it on my own solo was a big undertaking, but we did it.
It sounds like a lot of work. Yeah.
We did it. So how many varieties? I think that was about 250 varieties that I moved over. And keeping them all labeled through all the movement too was very difficult.
Yeah, I can imagine that was a kind of a logistical project as well as the like agricultural one. And can you tell us what the difference is between herbaceous peonies and woody or tree peonies? Because they're related, but they're pretty different for growers, right?
Yeah, so there's, I want to say like 7 different species of peonies out there. The woody peonies, I think there's 3 different species, and the herbaceous peonies, there may be 4. Now, I'm not 100% sure off the top of my head, but it's about that. So a woody peony, they are related, but they grow completely differently. The stem is wood. It's a shrub. The peony will bloom off old wood, whereas a herbaceous peony, it dies down after the fall. It goes into dormancy, it loses its stems, and you can cut them right off, and they will grow new stems every spring, whereas a woody peony will bloom off old. It will grow new stems, but it will only bloom off old wood. And the care and keeping of them is completely different. So a herbaceous peony is very hard to kill, I'll be honest. I left one out. We had a really early winter last year, and I didn't get 100% cleaned up. And I noticed when the snow went away, I had left one plant just out on the grass, and it was alive. It was fine. This is a herbaceous. If I had done that to a tree peony, it would 100% be dead.
Okay.
So like a herbaceous peony is very hardy. It can grow in zones. I think it's 3, the coldest, to zone 8, where a tree peony without like a winter protection, it can go to maybe 5 to a zone 9. So you can get a little bit warmer, but you can't really get very cold without a lot of winter protection.
Okay, so how about you there in Quebec? Do you have to do winter protection to get the tree peonies to survive there in Quebec?
So my tree peonies are here in my backyard. So I live in a zone 5, which is close to Montreal. I do not winter protect. My neighbors, I have a few neighbors that are close peony friends. They do, but they have more time on their hands than I do. So mine are out there struggling. However, they do bloom in zone 5. In zone 4, I do have a couple trees we call them trees colloquially, but they're really a woody peony. So the real word is woody peony.
Yeah.
Because they're not trees, they're a shrub. So I do have a few in zone 4 in my field. They suffer. They really suffer. I may get 1 or 2 blooms, but that's about it.
A little too cold.
It's a little too cold without winter protection.
Okay. And I was looking at the pictures that you have of them on the website, and to my eye, at least, I mean, the flowers of the tree peonies look a lot like the herbaceous peonies. Is that true?
I would say no.
No. Okay. Well, okay.
You can get a whole wider selection of color on a tree peony flower than you can in a herbaceous plant. So like the oranges and those types of things you don't find on a herbaceous plant.
Okay, so you gotta have, if you want those different colors, you gotta get the tree peonies.
They're also like a massive flower too. So some of them are like 3 times the size of a herbaceous flower. But they're not good for cut flowers. Yeah, they're not good for cut flowers.
Oh, okay. So thank you for that's very important, since I assume most people who are listening to this are cut flower.
Yeah, for growing
growers.
for market, we're not doing tree peonies.
Okay. So we're really talking about herbaceous peonies when we're talking about growing for market. So tree peonies are more like just like make your yard or farm look nice.
Yeah, they're a collector plant. They're very expensive too. Like they sell for over $100 for a 3-year graft. They're not the easiest to divide either. So I graft a tree peony, whereas I divide the root system of a herbaceous peony.
Okay, that's a whole nother thing too, right? Because I saw on your website that the tree peonies had to be grafted. So yeah, that adds a whole nother level of complication to things. So okay, well that's good, because I was going to ask you like how many blooms you would get off of a tree peony versus a herbaceous. I guess that's not a relevant question. So maybe it's good. I guess it's good for people to know that you have both, and but then we can focus more on herbaceous.
If you're growing for market, you want a herbaceous peony.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so yeah, you just mentioned how the peonies do grow very far north, and I know that peonies don't grow so well in all southern locations. Like I think you said down to about zone 8. In fact, long-time Growing for Market magazine readers who have continued to follow our former flower columnists Pam and Frank Arnowski may know that their farm is in Texas, but they have a location in Minnesota specifically for late season peonies. So what are the chilling requirements, or otherwise, how can growers know if peonies will grow well in their area? Like, is it chilling hours, or is it something else why they don't grow well in the South?
So I think it's Michigan State that did a study on it. So they took, I think it was one of the most popular ones, Sarah Bernhardt, and they had her in a greenhouse and field grown. And they were trying to force peonies to bloom at a certain time, because when you're growing for market, you want to be able to account for when this peony is going to bloom, right? And when it's outside, it's harder to gauge. Like it might be a week prior, it might be a week later, depending on the season. So what they found, now I think it's Michigan State, but I may be wrong. What they found was that the peony required at least, I think it was 6 weeks of 0 to 4 degrees Celsius. Now, I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit, but cold. So it doesn't have to freeze necessarily, but it has to be like a good chilling period for 4 to 6 weeks. So in Texas, you don't get that. However, there's a thing called an intersectional peony, which is a cross between a woody and a herbaceous peony. And it doesn't bloom off old wood. The stem stays a little woody, but it basically dies off every year like a herbaceous would. It has buds a little further up a slightly woody stem. And I have a friend who's a grower in Alabama, and they have very hot summers and hardly any chilling, but we call them Itos because he was the breeder behind this cross. That was his last name. So these intersectionals grow very well in Alabama. So I would guess, be like bordering 8-9 there, but she can grow intersectional peonies, which can be used for a cut flower production.
Okay. That's cool that there's an option for growers farther south. Because I was trying to do my research for this interview, and sounds like some people definitely try pretty far south, but it may be kind of like a hit or miss kind of thing. Like if you have a cold year, they might do better.
Yeah, so this study also said that the longer the chilling hours, the more stems and buds that the plant produced. So, like, if you only have 4 weeks of chill, you may not have as much buds, flowers if you had like the whole 6 weeks. So, yeah, the colder, the better.
Okay, well that's really relevant for our audience because I assume that most of the people listening to this either have commercial farms growing cut flowers or want to, and so that's kind of like a make or break thing, right? Is maybe in those more marginal areas, you might get some blooms. It might be okay for a home gardener or something like that. But if you're trying to run a business and need to get a certain number of stems off of them, I guess people can decide whether.
It's tricky. It's tricky. And like,
Yeah, okay.
it's an expensive endeavor, right? Like, peonies are an investment. They're not cheap. So, I mean, I personally, if I'm in a zone 8, I'm not going to be growing peonies in a commercial production, but I would probably try in my garden.
Yeah, and I guess that would be a good thing where people could, maybe ask if they have other people in their area who are growing peonies. They could, find out if other people are having luck with them or not. But that's probably a good guideline, like you said, is probably down to zone 8 or so. And you can ship your roots to Canada and USA, right?
Yeah, so I have Canadian border inspection comes to the farm and inspects each root going to the States. I don't have to do that for Canada because I'm in Canada. But they come to the farm, they inspect all the roots. I have to wash them with a toothbrush because they can't have any soil on them. So they're squeaky clean and they go across the border. I do have quite a few American clients. They have to pay for phyto and they have to pay a little more for shipping. So I cherish them. But yeah, because I have a huge collection of plants that are hard to find really anywhere. And I have a huge collection of Canadian and Quebec cultivars that have been hybridized in Quebec and Canada, but you can't get in the States. So I really think I might be the only one that does ship to the States at this time because it is an added bit of complication.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think that sharing organic matter across the border is important. Like, I mean, these genes that are here, we can't necessarily get in the States and vice versa. And so, like, I think keeping the border open for, the sharing of genetic material is a good thing.
Yeah. Sharing is good. And I'm so glad you can, because I used to work in the seed industry. And so I know that there's like, it gets more complicated with like even seeds, like not even talking living plant matter. Yeah. For good reasons, we want to try to limit the spread of pathogens and stuff like that. But I'm glad that you can ship across the border because yes, you have quite an interesting collection from looking at the assortment on your website. And it's just the history. Like I noticed some of the varieties that you have are well over 100 years old.
Yeah.
And so that's just like, it's really cool to think that somebody over 100 years ago had developed and was growing the exact same variety that you're still growing to this day. So I'm glad you're keeping them alive.
Yeah. I really do enjoy the histories and the stories behind the plants. And I think that's what really brings it alive for me, that each one of these plants has a person behind them and a hybridizer, and they all have stories. Like, why did they name this plant a particular name? Like, who was this person to them, and so on. And I enjoy that a lot.
And now let's take a minute to hear from our sponsors. It's with their generous support that we can bring you the podcast for free. This episode is sponsored by Nifty Hoops. Nifty Hoops designs and builds high tunnel systems for growers who want dependable results. What stands out is that Nifty Hoops tunnels are complete systems designed by experienced builders with the details worked out ahead of time. That means the core components are included from the start, like end walls, ventilation, doors, baseboards, and double-layer poly, rather than being added later. The tunnels are designed for real wind and snow loads, efficient assembly, and long service life. You can choose a self-build kit with guidance from written manuals and videos, or a community build where Nifty Hoops works alongside you and the project gets completed in one day. Nifty Hoops has built more than 1,500 hoop houses across the country, including many funded through the NRCS High Tunnel Initiative. They're known nationwide for predictable outcomes and ongoing support. If you're planning a high tunnel project and want it done right, you can learn more at niftyhoops.com. Today's episode of the Growing for Market podcast is brought to you by BCS America. On our farm, we've had our BCS two-wheel tractor for over a decade, and with no belts to slip, its all-gear-driven construction is still going strong. Though we originally got it for rototilling, we kept it even when we went mostly no-till because it can do so many other things around the farm. From snow blowing to making raised beds with the rotary plow to chipping wood, it can do just about anything you might need on a farm with the right attachment. Need to shred a cover crop? A BCS flail mower will make quick work of even the most vigorous cover crop and chop it up so it breaks down quickly. Want to stir in compost or amendments without inverting soil layers? A power harrow turns your BCS into a precise tilthing machine with depth control so you don't mix deeper than you want to. With so many attachments to choose from, it truly is the Swiss Army knife of farm implements. It's why, instead of saying two-wheel tractor, so many people just say BCS. Tractors and attachments are on sale through the end of the year. Visit bcsamerica.com to find sale pricing and your nearest dealer. And now, back to the show. Is there a favorite variety or that, like a favorite story one?
Favorite story?
You don't have to. I just wanted to give you the opportunity. If, like they all seem to have.
My favorite variety is the one in bloom.
Yeah.
So,
good answer.
Yeah. I really enjoy peony season when, it's 8 weeks of bloom and we just had week 1 is pretty much done now. And, that's very exciting when it starts there. It may not be like the best looking peony. Usually week 1 and 2, they're kind of scraggly things. And they're really the tenufolias. They're the fern leaf peonies. And they're usually a single bloom and they're small, but it's very exciting, I think.
There's something to be said for earliness. You can't have it all.
No. And I think that's very exciting. And then we get into like week 5 is really when the field explodes. But trying to think favorite story, I don't know. There's one that's called Lovebirds, and it's because the carpels intertwine. And I think that's very romantic and nice. It's one of my favorite peonies. I have it all over my yard. That one's kind of nice. We also have a few that are named after like American presidents, and there's one named after a Governor General of Canada. And, that was a great honor to present. I didn't do it, but present this peony to her that, that was the Canadian Peony Society that did that. So, little things like that. That's one of my favorite hybridizers is Maurice Menard, and he's from Laval, Quebec. And I have a huge collection of his peonies. And he named a bunch after his granddaughters, which I now have a relationship with them because they've been trying to get his peonies back. So I've been able to give Catherine Louise her peony back, which I think is really sweet. Yeah.
Yeah, that's such an amazing full circle moment to find that you're sounds like I mean, they must be hard to find if they're coming to you.
Are.
That's so cool to be able to give the variety back to the granddaughter.
Yeah.
That is really cool.
So it's very sentimental. I do have a favorite story. There was a man in, I think it's West Virginia, and his wife passed away and she had a huge garden and her name was Sandra. And I happened to grow a peony called Sandra's Spirit, which was named after a woman in my town here in Hudson. So nothing to do with this man at all, but he had tracked down this peony because he wanted it for his garden to commemorate his late wife. And I didn't have it in my catalog at the time. He asked the American Peonies Association, which sent him to the Canadian Peony Association, which sent him to me. And he finally found me. And I said, well, I do actually have a couple plants that can be divided this year. I wasn't planning on it. So he ended up getting Sandra's Spirit, and he was like over the moon.
Oh, that is a great story. And yeah, what an amazing name. I mean, for remembering his late wife to have a variety called Sandra's Spirit. That's so cool that the peony societies were like, yeah, go ask Kate-Lynn. She might have it.
Yeah, just because it was a Maurice Menard peony.
Okay.
So I have his collection. And so, yes. I also have a very large Saunders peony collection, which Saunders, his father founded the experimental farm in Ottawa, which is a very large, well, what did they do? He did wheat hybridizing.
Did a lot of stuff, it sounds like.
Yeah, he did a lot of research at the experimental farm in Ottawa, but he was a professor at Hamilton College in New York. and he hybridized, we call it the modern peony, which is a herbaceous hybrid peony. So with herbaceous peonies, there's lactifloras, which are the old garden varieties. They have the big double heads, and they usually flop over. So the most common ones are a lactiflora. But he hybridized herbaceous hybrids, which have strong stems. They come in single, they come in double. They sometimes bloom earlier than the garden varieties as well. We call him the man of modern peonies. So I have a large collection of his. I think he hybridized, I don't know, about 200. And they're like a collectible item today.
Cool. And are you doing some breeding work yourself? Did I read that on the website?
A little. I sometimes get carried away with the amount of work that I have to do in my day, but I am trying. I do like to go around and take a father plant and smush it into a good seed-bearing plant, and then I will collect the seeds and plant them. I do have a bunch of seedlings in my backyard. I have one that's mature that I really should divide and do something with. But, the hybridizing process and the registration process are like a whole different ballgame, whereas the American Peony Society is the registrar for all peonies. So it's a lengthy process to get your peony registered. You have to divide it. You have to send it out to different people to evaluate it. It's more work than I have time for right now, but I am dabbling.
Well, cool. I'm sure when you see the right variety, you'll know.
Yes.
Okay. So you're just taking, do you have to make sure that the mother flower is not already pollinated? Do you have to put a bag on the flower to keep it? Okay.
Yeah.
So, but otherwise it's kind of like birds and the bees. You're just making it happen. Okay.
There are people that go out with a paintbrush and go and paint flowers. So you want to make sure that you're getting a flower that's just opened. You go and put the new pollen on it, and then you put a baggie on top of it, and then you keep it there until September. You can go and collect the seeds. So I have a few that I have crossed here in the backyard. Nothing to report yet, but we're getting there.
Uh-huh. Okay, so also looking around on your website, I see that the peonies ship in the fall. Why is that the time to dig them up and replant them?
So you want to get a plant that's going into dormancy. So you don't want to hurt its natural cycle. So if you're going to dig it up in the spring, it's working on putting its buds on. And what you're going to do is you're just going to stress out the plant, and it's not going to bloom at all. So if you're getting it into dormancy, by September, they start to change colors here. So they stop photosynthesizing as much. They usually go red or orange or like a purplish. And then you can chop off the stems. You dig up the entire plant. Then I wash them off to get all the soil off. And then I will look at the symmetry of the plant. And I want to get a division that has at least 3 to 5 eyes, which is the new growing points that they have set in July. So we also don't want to disturb that. So they start setting their growing points in July. They'll be very visible come September. And you want to send your customer a 3 to 5 eye division.
Cool. Okay.
So there's always the argument in the peony world, do you want spring planted or do you want fall planted peonies? And in Quebec, where I am, there's really no spring. It goes from winter to summer very quickly. And so peonies enjoy they need a cool growing season to grow their feeder roots. So they have the tuberous root, which is the large thick root, and then they have the feeder roots that come out from that. And that's what, it uptakes its nutrition from. And it requires a cool season to grow the feeder roots. So if you're going to disturb it, you want to do it when it's dormant in the fall. And then it has a cool season to set roots again.
Okay, that makes sense. So is that your recommendation for people if they've ordered roots that receive them in the fall, just go ahead and plant them
right away?
Right away?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, in some different climates, they plant in the winter, and that's fine. North Carolina can plant a peony in the winter, and Pennsylvania can plant a peony in the winter. But if you go from snow, frozen ground to 20 degrees, I mean, that's rough on a peony.
Okay.
Which
Right.
is basically what we do here.
Rough transition.
Yeah.
Okay. And when do you open up ordering for the fall planted roots?
I try my best Usually speaking, peony growers open January 1st. Now, I don't know who set this trend, but that doesn't work for me. I'm busy during the Christmas season. So usually I try for February 1st. I'm a bit later opening catalog than everyone else, but that's okay. February 1st, you can place your order. I unfortunately do sell out very quickly. Now, I don't know. I don't have that many left, but there's a few good ones. And by September, I'm done.
Okay. I was just going to say, looking at your website, I noticed that you were already sold out on a number of varieties. So people can remember that February 1st. So like
February.
order.
But I do have a newsletter too. Yeah. So I send out a date and time that I open, and people are there and ready. Because there are some varieties that I have that are hard to get other places. So there are some very diehard collectors that are right there at 9:00.
On February 1st.
On February 1st.
Okay. All right. Well, I guess it's like a lot of other planting stock and seeds. It's like order early for best selection. I mean, that's like a lot of times it's a different business. I feel like, farmers may be used to it, but it's different from, like something that's manufactured, that we're dealing with a biological product. You can't just be like, wow, demand's really high, run the factory, add an extra shift or something. It's like,
if I only have 15, I only have 15. Yeah. That's it.
Okay. All right. Order early, folks. Okay. I know you've dug and replanted a lot of peony roots with the farm move. Can you tell us the best practices for establishing the herbaceous peony roots that people get from you? In fact, some people in our audience may have gotten roots from you in the past or maybe in the future. What would you tell them about how to succeed with getting their peonies established?
So peonies are easy growers. If you plant them in the fall and they have their long fall to establish, you'll most likely have a bloom in the spring. Now, a lot of people will say you need 3 years to get a peony bloom. But if you buy a good quality root that has 3 to 5 eyes, has enough tuberous root attached to it to support the 3 to 5 eyes, so you want like a good chunky root, plant it in the fall. Personally, for my new plantings, I just put a load of compost down on it's municipal compost that we can get here. It's not expensive. I load it down 1 inch thick on my new plantings. I till that in, and that's all my peonies get. I never fertilize past that. Fertilization also is something that is very subjective and very personal depending on your soil. So I can't give any fertilization recommendations for a peony.
Fair enough.
I mean, it's all different.
Yeah.
But for the most part, they don't need a lot of fertilization. You can water them if you'd like, but they're drought resistant and they don't like wet feet. So I don't have irrigation in my field. I don't need irrigation in my field. I plant them. I let the fall rains take care of it, and they thrive.
Cool.
They're an easy garden and like a commercial growing plant. They're fairly easy. You just have to have the right environment.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's good. There's a lot more fuzzy flowers out there. Okay. Are peonies one of the crops that people should dig up once in a while? Like, I know some perennials get a little root bound or otherwise can benefit from being dug up and divided from time to time. So do peonies benefit from renovation, or can you just leave them where they are once they're planted?
If you plant them with a good enough space around them and don't allow their roots to get inhibited by grass or any other thing, no, you could just leave them forever. A peony can live over 100 years if it's in a good spot. I mean, they're not fussy at all. Yeah.
That's amazing.
And they'll just keep blooming. Like our homestead in Brownsburg has peonies that I don't know how they got there or who brought them over, but they've been blooming for at least 100 years, and they've never been touched. So, I mean, as long as you give them distance apart in a row, I plant mine 2 feet apart. I dig mine up every 3 years, though. But 2 feet apart in a row, you could leave them for, an extended period of time. I would recommend, if it stops blooming, to dig it up and see what's happening, but only if you see a problem. Never, and if you want to divide it, of course, go ahead and do that because then you can have more. But no, you don't have to dig them up, or they don't get root bound.
Okay. That's good to know. Well, that's interesting because we live in an old farmhouse here in Maine. I mean, and in fact, actually, I think next year will be the 200th anniversary of the oldest part of our farmhouse. And there's a couple peonies around the house, and now I realize they might be older than I am. Like,
They
I have no
probably
idea
are.
what variety they are. I mean, we didn't plant them. They were just there when we moved
They're
in.
probably
So
old and French.
yes. All right. Well, they haven't bloomed yet. When they do, I'll look and I'll compare to the pictures on your website and see if anything matches.
Probably not. The thing about identifying a peony is there is 8,000 peonies, 8,000 herbaceous peonies registered with the American Peony
Well, I
Society.
had no idea. That's a lot.
Yeah. And, a lot of them are pink, white, fluffy, and they all look the same. Like, I brought up Sarah Bernhardt, which is like the idyllic cut flower for like a pink, fluffy double cut. And there are so many pink peonies masquerading or named Sarah Bernhardt that are not Sarah Bernhardt. So, I mean, as far as identification goes, if you'd lost the name, I would just call it pretty and move on.
Yeah. Okay.
Mean,
and I think I can't remember if we also have white, but yeah, I think we have a pink fluffy peony.
Yeah, there's
comes
like
back every
800
year.
of those. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's beautiful. It does tend to keel over. It gets a little top heavy, or like a lot of the stems do, but it's beautiful while it does its thing every year. So, okay, so you did mention dividing. What I'm curious about is, I know they can be divided, but can people divide their peonies to get more after they've gotten established? And if so, how long do they need to grow before they can be divided?
Yeah, so absolutely. I do lactiflores every 3 years. I do herbaceous hybrids, sometimes 4 years. But 3 to 4 years is a good idea of when to divide if you want to. I'm usually on a 3-year rotation. But I would like to get at least 3 to 4 divisions out of a plant. So that's where I'm at. I would recommend not going beyond 10 years necessarily, because then it gets they're very large, and the divisions won't be pretty. There's a lot of like, I'm not going to say rotted, but like there's a lot of old tissue there that's not as great. So I wouldn't go beyond that. That's a pain in the butt. But you can either, to divide, you can dig up the entire plant, you can wash it off, check out its symmetry and get nice divisions, or you can just put a spade in and, chop it up, and you can get divisions that way too. It doesn't have to be complicated, or it could just be very simple. You just want to make sure that you get a couple eyes on each division.
Okay, and a lot of people in our audience will be familiar with dividing dahlias and like other perennials.
Exactly.
And I mean, potatoes, like people, I think people know, and if they can't, they can look it up. But I think they get the idea of, making sure there's some eyes on each division.
Yeah. So I had a large collection of dahlias when I started too. So I spent a lot of time dividing those, and it's actually harder to divide a dahlia than it is a peony. Like the grow points on a dahlia are not always super visible. You have to look for like a tiny little bump sometimes on the crown. Whereas a peony, like it's the size of my thumb. Like there's no mistaking it.
It's hard to miss. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's good to know. I mean, that's pretty cool that you can grow them for 3 or 4 years and then divide them into three-ish new peonies if people want to expand. Okay, well, I know that you don't grow cut flowers, at least not. I know it's a peony root farm, but do you know what the general guidelines would be for harvest, vase life, and generally like handling cut peonies?
Yeah, so I do harvest a little. I don't usually for sale, but like I have a few florists that like to buy.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, I like to leave at least 30% blooms still on the plant. But there's a reason why I'm doing that is because I want to leave as many stems and as many leaves on the plant as possible, because I'm growing a root really at the end of the day. A flower is secondary to my main crop.
Yeah.
So I would not go more than taking 70% off the plant. There are some farmers out there that I've seen take all the flowers off, and for the most part, like peonies are hardy, right? And there's a lot of people that overthink things, and they're fine. They're really fine.
They'll be okay. Yeah.
They'll be okay. Do I recommend it? Not necessarily. I mean, it will be fine, but you might need to see less growth over the years because, you're taking the leaves off that aid in the photosynthesization and, root growth. But you can get a lot of flowers off a plant. When I'm harvesting here, I want to get them very early in the morning, and I want to get them at a marshmallow stage. And throughout the day, I'll notice that they progress very quickly. So you're going to have to harvest if you're doing a cut flower production several times a day, because the heat really brings them on quickly. So I want marshmallow stage. I want to get them in the cooler as fast as possible too, because once they open and close a few times, they lose, they're almost done.
Yeah.
Vase life depends on the plant itself. So a double peony will last longer in a vase than a single peony. But I have noticed for lately in the design world, single peonies have more of a place in design than double peonies. So I would say single peonies are for event work only, because they won't really last on someone's table for more than 3-4 days. But a double peony will last a week for sure.
Okay, well, that's a really good tip.
Yeah.
I mean,
there's space for both. My designers all prefer the early single varieties, like Salmon Saucer and Moonrise, and Fantasia has been a big one recently. What else have they been? Lady Gay. Those ones, I mean, they're fun for design work, but not great for a table.
Okay. Is there any rule of thumb about how many stems you're going to get off a single peony plant? Or is it more like
I don't know.
Depend on variety and size of the plant and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, that depends on variety and size. There's some that are reliable bloomers, and then there's some that, they bloom less. I'm thinking Candy Stripe, which has become very popular. It's a white and red variegated bloom. And while it's become popular, I don't find it blooms reliably. It's a large plant, but it may have half the blooms that one of my pink double pinks have. It's, so it really depends variety to variety.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Well, that's one thing. I think talking about agriculture, the answer to over half the question is it depends. But it's important to know what the answer depends on,
Yeah.
There's very few cut and dried answers in agriculture. Although actually, so your answer there did make me think of a follow-up, and that's understanding that our audience is presumably cut flower growers. Are there any varieties that stand out to you as particularly good cuts? Probably the one that you just mentioned that's not a reliable bloomer.
Yeah, don't buy that one.
Yeah, probably not. Are there varieties that, are very reliable, make a lot of stems, good vase life, or,
Yeah, so the typical ones, they're popular for a reason. And Duchesse de Nemours is a perfect white cut flower. Lots of stems. It has side buds, so you may want to take those off to make a bigger focal stem or not. It depends on your market. Sarah Bernhardt, I would say, is the popular double pink. There's Kansas, and Kansas is a darker pink, very reliable. What else? Bread Charm, which is a very reliable balm red. I actually really love that one. It has very nice straight stems, so it's easy to cut. There's no flopping. It holds its flower up. Soft Salmon Saucer, which has become a very popular one, very reliable. It's a single pink and with yellow stamens on top. What else have we got? Yeah, I would say all of those I would highly recommend for a cut flower production.
Okay. Good. Recommendations help. Oh, and actually, I thought up of one question I should have asked you back when we were talking about planting is, when you're planting a peony root, are you trying to just put the soil level, figure out where the soil level was on the previous plant and just put it at the same soil level?
No, so they like to be shallow. They want their eyes about an inch below the soil level.
Okay.
So I have heard that if you plant it too deep, it'll push its way up, which is true. But I have seen, so I put a lot of wood chips down as a weed suppressant in my field. If I put too many wood chips, I have noticed that the eye may come up, but the roots stay below. So you get this weird looking root. So yes, it will move, but I don't recommend that. I would really just put it an inch or two. If you're in colder, maybe 2. But I can do it at an inch below the soil level. So that's the eye. So the root, the herbaceous root, is a little bit lower.
Okay. And you said you put the plants 2 feet apart, and I know you said that they're big plants, and so that's a single row down a bed, 2 feet apart?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's 2. I have 2 rows I call them rangées. So I have a rangée with 2 rows. they're 2 feet apart, and then they are interspaced 2 feet.
Okay.
So you'll have a root, and then on the right side, and then 2 feet on the left side, and then 2 feet apart. It's hard to describe by my just like, but yes, there's 2 rows, and the rangée is 4 feet.
Okay.
So I usually put, we'll say, about 75 in each row.
Okay. Cool.
Or 150 feet, 75 in each row. So I can plant them closer because they're being dug up in 3 years. But someone who's making a permanent planting wants to make sure that they're properly spaced. Because otherwise, if there's not a lot of air circulation, there's things like diseases they can get and, mildew and stuff like that you really want to avoid. So by spacing them properly, you can avoid that.
Okay. Airflow. Yeah, that makes sense. Well, Kate-Lynn, that's really the questions that I had come up with for you. Is there anything else that I should have asked you or anything you'd like to say before we let you go?
No, I think we covered a lot of peony stuff here.
Yeah, I definitely, I really did not know very much about peonies, so I certainly learned a lot. Okay, well, cool. Yes, I know 100% more about peonies than when the conversation started. I have new respect for the peony outside of our house now that I realize it could well be older than I am.
Yep.
But I do want to give you a chance to say, where can people find you online or social media or wherever you want people to look you up?
I'm on Facebook and I'm on Instagram. The easiest way is to go to my website, though, and it's all linked there, and you can get onto my newsletter that way, too. I don't send a lot of newsletters, just like we're open for sale or we're starting shipping, things like that. Yeah, so it's www.enfleurs.ca, and you can find me there.
Okay, cool. That's so people can get the reminder when you open on February 1st.
That's
to
right.
Get in line to get so they get the varieties that they want. Okay. Well, Kate-Lynn, this has been fun. I really appreciate you taking the time. We're late May here. It's going to be June before this interview gets out, but I'm sure it's a very busy time on the farm. So I really appreciate you taking the time to give us a peony education, and I enjoyed hearing about it.
Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah, it was fun. Thanks so much, Kate-Lynn. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, take care. Thank you for joining us for this episode of the Growing for Market podcast. If you've been enjoying the show, please consider giving us a follow and a rating or a review. It really helps others find the podcast. For more tips and tricks from farmer to farmer, check out our magazine at growingformarket.com. Whether you're a commercial grower or just want to grow like one, subscribe to Growing for Market magazine for the nitty-gritty of growing, marketing, and the business of market farming. We publish 10 issues per year with articles written by experienced farmers on topics ranging from tools and techniques to farm business operations and marketing. If you've been listening to the Growing for Market podcast and haven't yet checked out Growing for Market magazine, we've made a change so you can try the magazine for free. We've added a free month to the beginning of all first-time subscriptions. Try out the digital or paper magazine for a month, and if it's not for you, cancel within 28 days and you'll never even get billed. All subscriptions get you a year of the magazine, plus 150 downloadable back issues from the last 15 years and over 1,700 archived articles. With digital subscriptions starting at just $39 a year, head on over to growingformarket.com and subscribe today to benefit from over 3 decades of writing by farmers, for farmers, in Growing for Market magazine.